4 key elements to presenting your lures when I come back. Hey, welcome back. I was just downstairs doing a little bit of editing. I've gotten quite a few emails recently as to why I haven't been doing any more tips. Well, I've been busy filming and editing, but I'll take this few minutes to talk about a few things. Let's talk about bait presentations and why it's so important. One of the things that I like to talk about is the C and the 4 S's: color, speed, size, and sound. Let's talk about each one of those because every one of them in its own is wicked important. It's no surprise that I chose a jig head as my logo, as it's one of my go-to lures for just about any situation 90% of the time. But still, what's important about it is I need to know what size, what color, does it need to make sound, and the speed I'm going to retrieve it at. All those are still important. Understanding the most productive way to present your lure or artificial bait to a fish during certain cycles is so important. A fish's metabolism, weather, temperature, water clarity, sun penetration, all these are factors in deciding what color, what size, what speed, and if you need sound. Let's talk about color, as it's the most important one that we all seem to struggle over. Of course, color choice can vary from day to day depending on a lot of variables and can vary from lake to lake. As a general rule of thumb, you want your bait to blend into the natural surroundings as best as possible. So under clear conditions, I like to use blacks, blues, and greens. For stained waters, I like to choose oranges, yellows, golds, and quite often brass. And for the really dark and muddy waters, I'll choose flow colors: fluorescent pink, fluorescent orange, glow colors. Anything that glows makes a huge difference. Let's talk about sound. Very important to be added with the color. Sound can be the difference in a fish or no fish day. The sonic vibrations created from a lot of these lures and rattles help stimulate a positive response from most game fish. The lateral line on a fish help them close in on a bait even when they can't see it. Rattles, buzzbaits, crankbaits with ball bearings inside them help really bring the fish to your bait and give it a chance to strike. I have some here. Here's a large one I use for lake trout, and it has a ball bearing. And it's just a basic swim bait. It could be tossed or cranked, but what's important about this is it has a nice rattle inside. When I'm using jigs, I use them with rattles. I almost always use them with rattles. This also helps stimulate positive response. This one has a double rattle. Berkeley Frenzies, I love cranking these. They got rattles in them. These all work great to help bring fish in, especially when they can't see it. I use them sometimes even in clear. It helps, anything that you can use to help bring them in a little closer. It's very rare that I won't use some sort of a rattle unless the fish are super, super spooky. And then I'll just go with a straight bait. Pounding a jig head on the bottom, creating mud and that constant thumping sound also helps create a sound that brings them in and triggers strikes. This one has been pounded so often it's lost its color on the tip. It hasn't affected its fish catching ability, but it's probably time for a repaint. The speed. How important is this? I recall a funny anecdote as a child chasing an ice cream truck down the street and the truck would go too fast. Now that's a lure for children, and if he was going too fast, no ice cream for me. Same goes for the fish chasing your lure. Speed is very important. Temperature can make a huge difference in the speed you're using your lures. For instance, the colder the water, the more lethargic the fish. They're less likely to chase a fast, aggressive bait, and therefore a slower troll, a slower retrieve, a slower jig. This presentation, you may want to make it a lot slower for the temperature. And so as the water starts to warm up, you can make your retrieve a lot faster and a little more aggressive and start looking for those hard feeding fish. Another thing to keep in mind is the deeper you go, the slower you should be going. Obviously it's a site temperature, the deeper the water, the colder, the darker, so a slower presentation is more important. Size. Is bigger better? Not always. I have caught 15-pound lake trout on a 1/4 ounce jig. It was doing the right thing at the right time, looking like the right thing they were looking for. That's what's important. Having some background knowledge on the lake or body of water you're fishing in makes a huge difference in knowing what size to choose. Fish eat anything from plankton, leeches, nymphs, all the way up to shiners and chubs. So knowing what they're eating, or what they call matching the hatch, is 90% of your work. You can start throwing some baits, and then once you start catching one or two, you can hone that in by having a look at the stomach. If you're fly fishing, you can pump their stomach for small trout or whatever. Or if you happen to keep one and you check inside what they were actually eating, you'll get a lot closer to matching the hatch. I like to take a little time, look around the shoals, right close to shore, around the weed beds, and see what kind of bait is actually living there. That bit of knowledge goes a long way. Okay, in summary, color. Choose the best color for your water clarity. Sounds. Utilize the sounds lures make to help trigger more strikes. Speed. Control your speed based on water temperatures. Very important. Size. Try to match the hatch. Knowing what they're looking for or what they expect to see will help put more fish in your boat. Keep all of these in mind and you'll have a way better day fishing. Thanks for watching.